chairperson of the session, distinguished senior officers of Armed Forces of Sri Lanka and the other countries, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamu alaikum and a very good afternoon. It's indeed a great pleasure and honor for me to stand here second time as a part of this conference. Always I'm happy to come to Sri Lanka. I don't feel that I'm coming to another country because I have deep-rooted love and affection to the places that I have been well-trained here long time back. And also I'm so glad that one of my directing staff when I was in staff college in Bangladesh, General Rahim is here. And in fact, he has said and narrated so many things that I have also written in my script. For the interest of time, I may cut short a little bit. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I come from a country which has a very unique characteristics and issues and challenges, and especially in the changing dynamics of this world. I'm from a country which is only 1.2 meters above sea level, and I'm in the Indian Ocean. In the increasingly globalized world of 21st century, the Maldives stands at a crossroad with respect to socio-economic transformation, ideological transformation, and environmental degradation. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll talk about, out of many challenges that we have identified, three most important that we are facing today. How well we can weather these storms of change is the question that all Maldivians ask. This century saw extremely important key events which redefines the security spectrum of the world. These include, but not limited to, the 9/11 attacks, the global war on terror, rise of non-state actors, the democratic movement in Arab's world known as Arab Spring, the civil war in Syria and Libya, and the mass exodus of refugees, to name a few. In today's globalized world, the threats faced by nations are borderless in nature. To counter these threats, it is important to strengthen our cooperation, especially intelligence organizations, and put their mechanism in place for interagency and international collaboration amongst the intelligence communities of the world. The movement of terrorism, related finance, weapon trafficking, and terrorist communications can be thwarted if intelligence communities share timely, actionable information across the board. Maldives is a nation surrounded by Indian Ocean. Any security threat to Maldives would first manifest itself from the ocean. However, managing maritime security is a challenging endeavor for us. It requires cooperation between regional countries. For this Indian Ocean, there is a collaborative mechanism known as Indian Ocean Naval Symposium, which addresses the shared maritime security challenges and threats. Maldives signs a maritime security pact with India and Sri Lanka with a view of enhancing maritime domain awareness, search and rescue, oil pollution response, joint activities, including trilateral exercises. The way forward for maritime security is again this collaborative mechanism, as the borders are porous when it is right next to international waters where merchant shipping vessels have right of way. Ladies and gentlemen, the Muslim world in general and Maldives are facing ideological dilemmas. In this era of Islamic revivalism, goal and ideas of both Sunnis and Shiites are of pan-Islamist unified nations. It is this concept of pan-Islamic unity that is driving force behind all the streams of Islamic revivalism. Both Sunnis and Shiite Islam often claims that the resistance against West requires that Muslims put aside their differences, and this is the rhetoric being used by many of the opportunists. Maldives has a strong history of its liberal view on religion. However, the youth of today is facing, some of the youth of today is facing dilemma with regards to ideology. There's a polarization of extremism or fundamentalism versus liberalism occurring throughout the country. The movement of Maldivian foreign terrorist fighters traveling to conflict areas such as Syria and Afghanistan, the added exposure of misleading clerics in the social media, and the extremist view are the grave concerns, to name a few. Therefore, we Maldives needs to propagate to comprehensive counter-narrative or alternative narrative to the extremist narrative if we want to remain to a moderate Muslim nation that we have been throughout the history and to remain as the West version of paradise on earth. We cannot talk about extremism and not mentioning some of the prominent extremist groups such as ISIS and Al-Qaeda. However, what ravaging in the Middle East right now is obviously deeper than these groups. What we are witnessing is the collapse of post-Ottoman order. Sykes-Picot lines drawn in the deserts are being blown to dust. Though these extremist groups have religious, psychological, and technological phases in their most fundamental respect, it is an anti-colonial movement that takes at its reference point Islam, pre-colonial Sunni Caliphate. Even if these groups are being destroyed or crushed, the idea of Caliphate is likely to persist and return. The government of Maldives is working to stem the foreign fighters' flow from Maldives and have been successful in stopping the jihadis from traveling to conflict zones such as Syria and Afghanistan. This has resulted in some of the youth with violent extremist ideas getting aggravated since they are unable to fulfill their dreams. The government of Maldives needs to conduct a very comprehensive de-radicalization and counter-radicalization program to rehabilitate these youths back to mainstream of Maldivian population. Ladies and gentlemen, for the small country like Maldives, human security is closely linked with the economic security of the nation. Maldives were traditionally a seafaring people. Our livelihood depends on fisheries and merchant shipping. The industry that transformed the faces of Maldives started in 1972 with the opening of Kurumba Village, our first resort with 30 guest rooms. However, today Maldives is on the front pages of the most leading magazines in the tourism industry, and it is considered one of the world's most prestigious destinations. However, both fishing industry and tourism industries are seasonal and fickle industry. Hence, there is a grave concern and need for diversification of economy. The lagoons of Maldives are natural habitats that could economically be viable to aquaculture. The hundreds of uninhabited islands in the Maldives could be used for manufacturing industry as there's abundance of renewable energy available in the country, and a network of our airports and the ports can be used to transport the goods. One of the biggest upcoming project is in this regard is the shape of the I-Heaven project. Today, Maldives is set to utilize the strategic location straddling the main sea lines of communication in the Indian Ocean to economic advantage. The I-Heaven project next to 8-degree channel where most of the Indian Ocean merchant ship travels is set to transform Maldives' economy by an order of magnitude. The I-Heaven project, an integrated project designed to northernmost atolls of Maldives, the project capitalizes the strategic locations of the atolls straddling the 8-degree channels, which is the main east-west shipping route of the Indian Ocean. The project components include investment in transshipment port facilities, airport development, cruise hub, yacht marina bunkering services, dock real estates, and conventional tourism development. More than 18 trillion US dollars worth of goods are transported across 8-degree channels annually, with approximately 70,000 ships crossing the Indian Ocean every year. Furthermore, the unrivaled natural beauty of the island's geography in the region has a huge potential for the high-end real estates and tourism development. Ladies and gentlemen, a country will not prosper if the half of population is discouraged from being involved in economic activity. Especially empowering women and promoting gender equity is a crucial and accelerating sustainable development. Ending all forms of discrimination against women and girls is not only the basic human rights, but it also has a multiplier effect across all the other development areas. The gender equality is one of the 17 goals that makes up the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. We are proud to note that 55% of the students graduating high schools in 2015 were girls. In August 2016, the Maldivian Parliament has approved the Gender Equality Act. It is a law that sets out the role of government and businesses to bring in gender gaps in politics, economic, and family life. The biggest goal of this law is to take measures to eliminate obstacles to women participating in the labor force. Finally, we believe climate change is the 21st century greatest challenge for the development and the security. Climate change threatens the integrity of the Earth climate system and ecosystem. As I mentioned at the start of my presentation, the highest natural point of Maldives is around 2 meters. So all the negative effects that are already taking place and will continue to take place will we do not do anything will gravely undermine our efforts towards sustainable development. And for the Maldives, it would threaten our very survival and the sovereignty of our nation. The international community is actively engaged in minimizing the current effects likely future adverse impact through effective implementations of provisions of United Nations Framework of Convention on Climate Change. Maldives too has developed a national climate change policy framework to provide a blueprint to build resilient partnership with our regional and global partners. In this context, Maldives' climate change policy framework prescribes the government and the people of Maldives strategic policy for responding to climate change impact over next 10 years. Gentlemen, in conclusion, I would like to say that in today's post-9/11 scenario, the threat spectrum has shifted predominantly towards asymmetric threats from non-state actors. For nations with international borders in the sea, the threat is going to emanate from the sea. And there's need to have international and regional mechanisms address the complex issues of maritime security. Being a 100% Muslim country, we are not immune for ideological dilemmas facing the Muslim world. So we need to formulate a national framework to address the issues of violent extremism and radicalization. The issue of climatic change threatens the very existence of low-lying nations like Maldives. And we need to continue and convince the international community to reduce the emission of greenhouse gases to ensure the survivability of small island developed states like Maldives. This ends my presentation. Thank you very much for listening.